Hey there, welcome to the Jeff and Heidi Show, where you're going to have the opportunity to listen to and learn from everyday entrepreneurs.
Hello, this is Heidi Anderson with ECI Secure Pay and my co-host Jeff Heggie of Jeff Heggie Coaching. And we're really excited today to bring to you Brenda Bailey. She is the Income Ceilings Shatterer. So I really can't wait to hear more about this because I think we can all benefit from that. So without any further ado, Brenda, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, thank you. I'm excited to be on here. I get on a ton of podcasts, but when they actually are like in my wheelhouse, I get super excited, and y'all are. So I'm from San Antonio, Texas originally. I've been an entrepreneur for 28 years. So I've had two companies. My first one was a 7-figure sales company. I actually traveled around the US and Hawaii and Alaska and did trade show sales. And I had, contractors that worked for me, and we really expanded across the US. About 15 years ago, something called the internet was a-coming. And I knew that people were going to be buying differently. So again, as people have had to do in 2020, you have to pivot. You have to figure out what's next. So I knew that I wanted to do something because my products help people like in day-to-day lives, but they weren't making a huge difference in their lives. I guess for some of them they did, but I really wanted to do something because at that point I had the luxury of being able to do a lot of self-improvement, take a lot of different types of workshops and retreats and classes. So I already had about 8 different integrative healing modalities, certifications under my belt, and thought I wanted to go back to school and become an acupuncturist, and thought that would, because I love acupuncture, and then ended up coming across another modality called Theta Healing, which actually changes people's beliefs, traumas, and non-forgiveness on a cellular level. So bypasses the brain. And it made such a difference in my life. I thought, this is what I want to do for a living.
Sorry, tell me again, how long ago was it that you came across
14 years ago.
Okay.
So 14 years. And since then, I have 13 different certifications in integrative healing. So I don't always say like, oh, this is the end all know all, but I got to tell you, it ends up being the end all know all for me. And it's one of the best kept secrets because a lot of people are not familiar with it, don't know it, because a lot of people usually have a tendency to use that modality to heal people physically. But I'm all about the spiritual and the emotional. And as being an entrepreneur for 28 years, I know that we are our business. Right. So now, whatever's going on with us is going to show up in our world. And if if you're an entrepreneur, it's in your business. So, people always say I'm attracting the same type of client, or I'm rolling out these launches and they're not landing, and, all of this kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, well, if you're doing everything right, then I'm going to tell you the common denominator in this equation is you.
Yeah. Now, is that kind of like neurofeedback or something? Tell us more about what Theta Healing is.
It makes change. So what it does is it's called Theta Healing because as the practitioner, I go into a theta brainwave. So a lot of healing modalities go to an alpha brainwave. We're in a beta brainwave right now because we're talking. We're awake, hopefully. Jeff and Heidi are with me on this, right? And what happens is, again, the brain slows down. The higher the brainwave, or the, like alpha, theta, gamma, the more our brain is slowing down. What that does is allows you to be in an incredible meditative state, but also be in your knowing. And it allows you to bypass a person's brain. We only use 11% of our brain, and yet everybody wants to do mindset. Do you know how limiting that is? Because your brain can only go by the information that it has. Your knowing can go beyond that. So we bypass the conscious and the subconscious mind and make changes on a cellular level. So people can tell me how they think and how they feel. Actually, what you create in your life is what you believe. Those are held on a cellular level. But the information out there is, change how you think. Again, that 11% of your brain has to handle everything else and then change your beliefs, which again is the long, arduous, time-consuming road. But when you do it on a cellular level, your emotions and your thoughts will just follow. So it's as if it's always been, and it's less on what you have to do. So I know it sounds a little too good to be true, but I just finished doing a 5-day challenge where people are like, I believe, because it's like, it can just happen that quick. So like someone with Jeff, like it's just what he knocks up against with his coaching clients is that not being willing to do certain things or them pushing back in certain ways. And Theta Healing allows that resistance just to go away. Like all of my coaches that I work with will tell you I'm the easiest client. All of my clients are easy because I clear that resistance. I clear, again, as an entrepreneur, here's another spoiler alert, you're going to make mistakes. Hopefully you're going to learn from them. But human nature is then we fear. We distrust ourselves, we distrust our intuition, and then we end up attracting that same mistake because we have the fear of it. So what Theta Healing does is allows you just to forgive, like just move past it. That was then, this is now. You'll be able to move forward and do it and be, my thing is that what I really want for everybody is just be in your zone of genius. Just do what you were intended to.
You've talked about personal development stuff. This was actually a question down the road I was going to ask you. Do you follow Dan Sullivan?
Say that again.
Do you study Dan Sullivan's work?
No.
Okay. That zone of genius is one of his terms. And so when I read that in one of your emails, I assumed that you did. But okay, so
it's
tell us
kind
more.
of a little thing that's around for a lot of people. Yeah.
So tell us more about, that was a pretty high level overview. How do you do this?
Well, I do everything virtually, but as I say, I've been preparing for the pandemic for years now. I've done everything virtual. Again, thank you, Zoom. They just made it so user-friendly to be able to do this. We meet people one-on-one. I have an intro session that I do with people. I developed it because, and this is how I built into 6 figures just in networking and word of mouth, was I really wanted a session that if I never saw a person ever again, I know they'd be good. And it's what I do. And I have a specific list of certain things that we're going to cover. And what ended up happening in developing that list, it's again, forgiveness, trauma, what you need to forgive yourself for, those are regrets. What are you repeating patterns? Because then I can tell a lot about you. And because I've been doing this for 14 years and I teach people how to do this as well. I teach Theta Healing. I'm a certified instructor because I think it's just a really important technique. That when I clear all those, what I noticed is that people would just start making more money because I ended up working with a lot of entrepreneurs. Again, we attract who we are. So I was working with a lot of entrepreneurs. We use kinesiology to discover what your beliefs are, because people can tell me how they think and how they feel. What you've got out in your world is what you believe, and muscle testing will help determine that. It also helps determine that it's shifted as well. Now, doing it virtually, I'll surrogate for people and I'll get their permission to do that. So I muscle test for them to allow the session to go quicker so that we can change more. I have people want to muscle test for themselves, and I am fine with that. We just won't be able to cover as much. So it just depends on what the person, whether they want that control or not. But I say it's like a science experiment. We use muscle testing to discover what the before is. This is like a meditation. We'll discover, again, it's very respectful. Do you want to change that? They have to say yes out loud. Nothing will be changed unless they say yes out loud. That tells our brain that we want it, tells the universe that we want it, tells our divine power that we want it, and it gets to shift. And then what I do is just pretty much witness the shifts on a cellular level when you say yes. And then we use muscle testing to test that it has shifted.
So what do you, right now we're on video, but obviously this goes out as an audio format. So from someone listening to this that's never heard of any of this, explain a little deeper. Like, what do you mean by muscle testing? I'm assuming you don't mean they're going to bench press and they're going to
Muscle testing, kinesiology. And again, I have a video. If you can, drop me a DM or send me an email and I'll send you a video that shows muscle testing and how we specifically do it for Theta Healing, right? But we use our hands usually, or people stand. That's the most common. A lot of people have gone to the chiropractor and they've used their arms. So people have some type of idea of what muscle testing is. And understand this as well, Jeff. I've been doing this for 14 years, way before Skype, way before Zoom. So my only options were in person and on the phone. Mm-hmm. So it's, people can get this in any way that it can happen. Muscle testing happens because, again, I don't care how you think. I don't care how you feel. I mean, I do, but what I need to shift is what's beneath that. What is causing that? Why are you doing it? I don't care. I mean, again, I'm being like really blunt, but it doesn't matter what happened in your childhood. It matters what is happening as a result of that.
Right.
I don't care like what's inherited or like, and again, and what's in past, what you've brought in with this, it's like, how is it showing up for you? And having done this, I can figure out the beliefs. I can figure out what needs to shift.
So let's say we're having a session and we're just on the phone and so you're asking me questions and I say something, and then when you test, are you testing for like what are you testing for?
I will figure out what the belief is. I'll figure out like what needs to change as a result of what you're saying. And then we muscle test it to see whether I'm right or not. Like, am I spot on in what I'm hearing?
And so it's kind of like a yes or no, like whether or not your muscle gives in to the pressure or doesn't, right?
Right.
So if it gives in, then it's a no. If it doesn't, then it's a yes, right?
For most people.
Okay.
You have to discover what it is for you. So don't always say, because that's where people get really confused. I honestly did muscle testing. One of the first sessions that I ever had was with somebody who was dyslexic. The yes and no changed after every time we did a round of healing. Like it was like I was constantly having to reestablish the yes and no, which we do that just to make sure, because for sometimes it will change for people. Big shifts it's changing you on a cellular DNA level. So sometimes you'll see things like that.
Okay.
But muscle testing, again, Google it, go on YouTube, see what muscle testing looks like. That's your knowing. That's you getting out of your head. That's you getting out of your heart, not forever, but just, getting out of your emotion, getting out of your thoughts, because that's why people have the definition of insanity. Because you're wanting to change it with your mind, yet it's on a cellular level. You see the same patterns, right? Different aisle, same pew type thing. And that's why we do it, because we're not changing them on a cellular level. We're attempting to change them with our mind. And that's why people really have a lot of non-forgiveness for themselves, because they're not stupid. They're smart, and they know that they're smarter than that. And yet they're still doing it. And then they have a lot of, non-forgiveness for themselves. They have a lot of shame and guilt about it. And these are all things that are going to stop money coming into your life, right? Maybe you come from a sector or religion that, really looks down on money, right? We see it in the Bible. People inherit those types of things. Maybe your grandparents' grandparents felt like that. It's all going to affect how you show up in your life. And those are the different levels that Theta Healing can change that will cause changes. Like that you won't even notice it. Somebody, like, this is the thing that happens over and over again that I'm sure you guys will appreciate. Before, when we were all meeting in person, I'd go to a networking event. I'd have a woman go, "Oh, I need to talk to you." And I'd be like, "Okay." And then they would have a conversation with me on how their husband needs to come and have a session with me. Right?
Yeah.
And I would say, the world is our mirror. So if you want him to change, you come have a session with me. And they would. And then their husbands eventually, I just had this happen just 2 weeks ago, where the husband was like, "Okay, I'm ready to have a session with her," because they've seen such a difference in their wives and in their relationship, going, "Okay, this was pretty easy. Like, okay, I'll do this." And it just allows things, especially as an entrepreneur, we want to be supported, we want our world to be, that tribe to be who we support us. And if you're not creating that, that has a lot to do with the mirror that you're reflecting out.
So for our listeners' sake, someone listening to this, an entrepreneur that doesn't know what Theta Healing is, doesn't understand all this, how do they know they're your ideal client? Like, from someone like me just listening to this, not knowing anything about Theta Healing except for what you've just told us, I'm more like, oh, okay, and who's that for? You know, so who is that ideal client?
My ideal client is somebody who knows that they know what to do and they're not doing it, or
Okay.
they know what to do in their business and they're not getting that ROI or that ROE, return on investment or return on energy from it.
Okay.
And they can't explain it, but they're getting frustrated and they've done everything they know to do.
All right, that makes sense.
So they're just like, I need help. But they don't need help in like a marketing plan. They don't need help in a business plan. They've done all that, but it's still not gelling for them, or they're hitting a wall on, I can only make this much. And everything that I'm saying is not taking me to the next level.
Do you ever find that when you're working with somebody that you just kind of go, you know what, like you're in the wrong business, or do you know what I'm saying? Like you can tell that they're trying to make something work that just really is not them. And do you have an honest conversation with them? Just say, you know what, you're trying to stuff your square peg into a round hole, and you know, my advice would be to maybe move towards something that would use these gifts better or something.
No.
Okay.
That's not my place, right? But I can make shifts, and people do that. They'll realize, or they'll pivot, or they'll do something else, or something will lead them to that because they're open to it.
Right. So if they're feeling stuck, you know, and through this process, they might just realize on their own, you know what, I'm barking up the wrong tree.
Right. Or I'm not, you know, this is the thing that I say, and again, we're doing a podcast here, but I wouldn't have done video before Theta Healing. I wouldn't have been willing to do that. I'm an introvert. This is not naturally, I wouldn't have gone to a networking meeting if it hadn't been for Theta Healing.
Now, who led you through it? How did you find it to start with?
I thought I wanted to go to acupuncture school. So
That's right. Yeah.
I was looking at a holistic magazine, and I saw this acupuncturist had done like a advertorial on Theta Healing. And I thought, I think I'd like to learn that. And this was the thing. I just moved back home to San Antonio. I hadn't lived here for 25 years. I've lived all over the US. And I came back so I could spend more time with my family. I have a large, huge family in San Antonio. And I thought I want to do more, you know, like the weekly, monthly things. And I called this woman to want to take a class, and she never returned my call. And I was like, okay, you know, I forgot about it. And then I was like cleaning that magazine off of my desk. And it's been 14 years, like this month. And I called her again. I thought, well, let me give it one more time, you know, one more attempt, you know. And she answered. And she said, I'm teaching a class in 2 days. Do you want to come? And I mean, and it wasn't even in my city. I was going to have to travel like 2 hours and so stay overnight. And I was like, let me think about this, you know, and I really just like sat with it and I went, yeah, I'm going to do it. And I haven't looked back since. And I'll tell you what ended up like really solidifying it for me, that this was really something different. I've been on my own personal journey for 29 years, really looking at like what makes me tick, how can I improve myself, how can I love myself better, you know, all of that. And I have one sister, and I would always pick up the phone after doing something pretty profound and go, oh, you got to do this. I'll pay for it. You got to do this. And she'd be like, no, thank you. No, thank you. no, thank you. And I was like, okay, but she'd always be open to hearing what I was doing. After I took the Theta Healing class, and told her all about it and everything. And like a month later, I said, oh, there's a class happening. I'm going to TA in it. Do you want to come? And she was like, sure. I didn't ask any questions. I just registered her. And then that first day in the class, we were all having lunch, and this other student looked at her and said, Bonnie, why did you decide to take the class? And she said, the difference I saw in my sister. And I was like, what? I'm like, thousands and thousands of dollars, 15 years I've been working on myself. And you're saying you saw a bigger difference in 30 days? And she was like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. And I went, this is why I want to do this for a living, because it's as if it's always been. So people just, I always say, like, I had this other client that came up to me. I saw her. She had that intro session that I talk about. I ran into her at a networking event. And I always say you have complete anonymity because I never remember sessions. Just so you know, like when we have a session, I never remember it. And I ran into her and I said, hey, how's it going? And she's like, yeah, I don't think that session worked. I said, oh, okay. That's unfortunate, but I know it does, so I was just like, no big deal. And I said, well, go ahead, tell me what's going on, what's new? Oh, new boyfriend, new place to live, new dog, had done a musical performance. And when she mentioned the musical performance, in my mind, I finally went, wait a minute, we worked on Stage Fright. And I looked at her and I said, wow, that all sounds really great. And then she looked at me and she went, I guess it was a good session. I guess it did. And that's how Theta Healing's intended to be. We don't have to self-improve and have to constantly be in our brain to do it. Our brain's got to do other things. So Theta Healing will just change it. And then you'll just change. You'll just do it without thinking about it. And then like somebody in your outside world will be like, usually it's like, did you change, they'd be like, Heidi, did you change your like skincare regimen? Or did you dye your hair? Yeah, they'll be like, right. Did you change the color of your foundation? Or, they'll be like, what's going on? Or they'll be like, Jeff, you and your wife must be getting along pretty good. You're looking a little lighter and happier. People are always trying to figure out like, why is this happening? Why do they look different?
Right.
Why are they acting different? Why are they talking different? And you won't realize it. That's the beautiful thing about this. And I often have like people who have programs, they'll put my session in there like at the beginning so that their clients will have, better results and make their program look better. Again, I have my own program, but I just want people to be happier, their life be easier. It's possible, and you don't have to do all the work. That's the beautiful thing for most clients that come to me, is that they know they've done everything that they can do and they're willing to make the investment for it to be different. And usually after that intro session, which was never my plan, right? I didn't plan it for the next step. That's not how I used to do my business. I'm just going to tell you that right now. I've been trained. I've hired somebody to help me with this, but I was just very in the moment. But people would usually refer people. They'd want to take a class to learn the technique, or they'd want to find out, what else can I do with you? Because if this can happen in 90 days. And I have like real mainstream clients that would be like men who'd be like, I don't know what the hell you do, Brenda, but deals were stalled, financing was at a standstill, and now all of a sudden it's fine and nothing else has changed. Nothing else has changed, but I've worked with you.
Now, can this help somebody with like, say, like ADD, who just can't focus?
It can, but still, I'm ADD. There are really beautiful things that can happen as a result of it, so they can keep how it works for them and allow them to focus. What I find a lot of times with people not being able to focus, a lot of it has to do with them making sure that they do everything right. So there's usually some type of control, some type of perfectionism, or some type of trauma that puts them in that not being able to stay focused.
That makes sense.
Well, this is interesting. So share with us, and I'll put it in the show notes as well, but where can our listeners find you at?
I have a Facebook group that we do a lot of like little mini healings. It's free, and we call them healings, right? But, that allow people to make shifts very quickly. It's called Wealth Vibe Acceleration.
What is it again?
Wealth Vibe Acceleration.
Vibe Acceleration. Okay.
Yeah. So you can always, search that and ask to join. We also do, like, I was just saying, I just finished doing a 5-day launch. It was Activate Your Inner Money Magnet. People are raving about it. I just loved it. Because they're really starting to see a difference, setting that foundation. Also, I'm on LinkedIn, Brenda B. Bailey. I'm on Facebook, Brenda B. Bailey. I'm on Instagram, Brenda B. Bailey. I'm on YouTube. You can pretty much find me anywhere. whatever platform you like, whatever social media, I'm there.
And then are they all in your Linktree link?
Yes.
Okay, I will make sure to post that and share that. And you want to share anything about your Draw Money to You MP3?
Yes. So that gives you a little taste of Theta Healing. It's a 1-minute meditation, 1 minute. So it's, we call it the Draw Money to You. But it could be used for any intention. So if money's not what's on the top of your mind right now, if it's your relationship, if it's your health, make that your intention. It'll work with anything. And what I tell people to do is do it first thing in the morning, last thing in the evening. So give me 2 minutes a day for 30 days. And let me know how you're doing. Because people will see a difference. I hear from people all the time, because it doesn't have to take a long time. And that's always my point in anything that I do is, give me a try. And I've got lots of ways for you to give me a try free, so that if you want to have a conversation with me down the road, if you would like to implement this in your practice, I always say, tell me what you do for a living, and I'll show you how to be able to implement Theta Healing in it to where it'll make a difference for you, your clients, your, what you give to the public, so to speak. So.
Well, excellent. And I'll make sure to have all these links in the show notes so people are able to grab them and find you and stay connected. But thank you so much for being with us and sharing and educating us.
Yeah. And I also have a link in the Linktree, like Chat with Brenda B, where you can schedule a 30-minute little, if something I said to you, you were piqued your interest, ask me about it.
Okay.
What would this look like for me? That type of thing. I don't mind doing that. And believe me, I'm not a hard sell. So, if you want information, I'll give you information. I believe that, knowledge is power. Mm-hmm. And if I'm not the person for you, or if you're looking for something that's not really in my wheelhouse, like I said, I've been an entrepreneur for 29 years. I know people.
Cool.
I'm happy to connect you with somebody else.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming on, Brenda. This is really fascinating. I can't wait. I'm going to go look at the MP3 and I'm going to do it.
But it's the key to anything, guys, is to be consistent. Right. So I'm really trying to give you something super easy to be consistent with. But that's really where you're going to see a difference in anything that you do, right? Jeff will tell you this as a coach, be consistent.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, great. That was awesome. Thank you, Brenda.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it. This was fun.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.